चलो
बोल रहे थे आई थिंक
ठीक है फिर।
you can issue of manual scavenging in India. Unfortunately, this shocking practice still exists. And to discuss this, we have an eminent speaker amongst us, Bezwada from Safai Karmachari Andolan. I welcome you, sir. I welcome the discussion for today, Asang Wankhede from University of Oxford. Welcome, Asang. I welcome the chair for the session, Professor Praveen Jha. Sir, we very well know you, but a quick introduction. He's a faculty member at Center for Economic Studies and Planning, JNU, and specializes in labor economics, agricultural economics, and economics of education. With over 3 decades of teaching and research experience, he has held positions at several institutes like St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi, JNU, and served as visiting internationally, particularly in Germany and Global South. He has published extensively in leading journals and serves on various editorial boards, including Agrarian South, Journal of Political Economy. He also actively contributes to advisory committees of governments, human bodies, and civil society organizations. Thank you. I request Sir to formally introduce the speaker and begin the session.
Thanks for having me here. I've also been a kind of long-standing fellow traveler of CSD, so that is what qualifies me to be here today, I imagine. I've known Shri Wilson for a very long time now, and great admirer of his work. He's doing what is absolutely central and important from the point of view of the well-being of one of the most distressed and marginalized categories in this country. So he is one of the founders of Safai Karmachari Andolan and the national convener of the same. It's a very well-known Indian human rights organization that has been campaigning for the eradication of manual scavenging, the construction, operation, and employment of manual scavengers, which has been illegal in India for more than 20 years now. Yeah, actually more than 30 years now. Yeah, but we know the reality. If you look at what this newspaper report, 2-day-old newspaper report, no? 75, right? And sort of his work has been recognized very widely for very good reasons, such as by Ashoka Foundation, which has nominated him as a senior fellow. He was, as all of you, I imagine, know here, that in 2016, on July 27, 2016, he was awarded very well-known prize in the name of Raymond Magsaysay. So, yes, that is our speaker today, but more than anything else, a man of huge conviction, massive courage, and never say lie approach. So, yes. Should we introduce our discussant also? Asang Wankhede is a DPhil candidate at the University of Oxford, focusing on Indian constitutional law and the interplay between caste and poverty in affirmative action policies. His 2022 monograph, Affirmative Action for Economically Weaker Sections and Upper Castes in Indian Constitutional Law, published by Routledge, offers a pioneering doctrinal critique and is a compulsory reference for Constitutional Law 1 courses in Indian law books. Currently, he serves as the lead research consultant for the Australian Human Rights Commission's 2024 National Community Consultations on Caste Discrimination, a qualitative study exploring caste-oppressed communities' lived experiences in Australia. An op-ed contributor to The Guardian, he also reviews leading journals like the Journal of Political Economy. So we will have about 40 minutes. After that, yes. And after that, maybe 10 minutes for Asang, and then we can have interaction. Ji.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair, and all the dignitaries here. And Ms. Asang also is there, and it was trying to contact and to formally discuss about the whole thing. Friends, this is a kind of an opportunity for us to review actually what is happening in this whole the sector. So in the sector, when we talk about, we can think about it as a sanitation. Instead of we taking a manual scavenging. First, let us look as a sanitation. Sanitation is one of the important sectors which is an essential. It is a necessity. We can't say that this sector, this is not required, we can remove this. That is not possible. This is a very essential and necessity. That kind of in a sector, how do we actually manage in our independent country? We are not going behind before the independence, what happened, all those things. If we are going there, only we will have the name, only we can blame each other. So best way is after the independence, the whole thing is in our hands. So after coming the power to our hands, what we have done? And how do we look this whole sector? Sanitation is in a kind of in a chain. There are the people, they need a service. Their offices, their everything, their houses, everything must be clean. There are somebody they have to clean. And there is a government between this. The service provider is not, you cannot directly engage or apply. There is a government, quasi-governments, municipalities or something. So they will be deputing this Safai Karmacharis to us to take the services. So in this whole scenario, the problem here, what we usually we are all doing or missing is we don't take the service provider that only take as a government. Government is providing the service, likewise we think. But the people who actually give the service, the sanitation workers, for them we tend to ignore. We think there is anything, there is somebody is giving service, somebody is taking service. So giving service is the government. Whether the government is giving a good service or not giving a good service, that is only our question. Whether we are receiving that as a free or they are charging, that is another thing. But in this between this, there is a most important which we supposed to focus before also is the human beings who are providing the service. One is there, why they are. When you look this as just as a service, the service can provide it, not just some group of the people. But in India, because of the various reasons, historical reasons, particular community only providing the service. And we do, the government engage, particular community only for the provide this service. So we don't look that as something is happening here, very uniqueness. So we think that it is as usual, how we drive the car from the road and we come back. So it is just now, you know, driving, you are coming. But you don't look into the people who are cleaning all over these premises are all coming from the same caste across the country. Why? And within that, the majority women, when they are engaged, where there are the salaries or the daily wages or anything, that is a much more less than the men are getting. So these are the very facts. This is the we cannot ignore. So when the clearly it is there in front of us, how do we look at? It's our wish to do anything. So we can look whatever way we want. But when the 100% of the people across from Kanyakumari to Srinagar to Dibrugarh and Assam and here and anywhere, like just geography I am mentioning that, but everywhere, only one section, untouchables. All untouchables, only engaged, or we engage them, or we employ them. Then we need to understand why it is. So there is some reason. The reason we are saying it is because of the untouchability of the caste. Some can say that no, there are the one person in the Secunderabad municipality, one other caste person also clean. Of course. In this the great big country, so there will be one or two other people also maybe do. But if you take a total structure, it is an everybody is an. And second is there is a most important, we also missed many years. There is a different categories of the sanitation. Sanitation sweeping and all is not prohibited. That they can do. Any person can do. Sweeping the offices, sweeping the roads is not a prohibited practice. But only particular people only engage in, we need to understand. The second category which we are now discussing mostly under the manual scavenging. There are the 2-3 categories. One, number one, dry liquid cleaning. There is a no any kind of a water facility, and literally they have to carry. There are the only two, what we can say, differences. One difference is when you use somebody will come and use by sitting on the top. Down there will be some basket or something. They will remove the basket and go. Or if there is no basket and it will fall on the desk, on the footrest, wherever, they will come and they will take the human excavator. That is the only difference. Otherwise, dry litter is dry litter. Definitions may fail. The government say that it should be there so much of the diameter and it has to get the human excavator must get crushed easily and flow into that. So many things they can say. But when we look into our own eyes, making one another human being is the human excavator. Definitions, I am not entering into that. You can define anything. Because the people who are carrying, are clearing, are disposing human excreta, they are unable to define the way we want to understand the thing. But they know how to do that. And we are making them to clean for many centuries. But today also there is a discussion that define the scavenging. So how do we define? So this is all our ideological or the debatable or the scientific method of the understanding the problems. But my submission is only as a human rights, as a human beings. Rights we bada baat hai. It's only human beings, why we make them to clean like this. Number two, when there is such kind of a cleaning, they get very less wages. Very less. It is at 30-40 rupees one house per month. And she may be cleaning hardly 5 to 10 houses. During that time, it was 15 to 20 houses because of more tragedies. Now the numbers are also reducing, of course. So when it is reducing, then the people are also not willing to go clean. But both the reasons, the numbers has come down and she may be cleaning 5 to 6 hours. So her monthly income also you can just call. It is hardly 300, 400 rupees maximum. Itne hi paisa. Then apart from this, they may also get 1 roti. 2 rotis some may give. And some festival season they may give some old clothes. This is the name. So I am requesting when we look this kind of problems, please don't enter into how much they are getting. So if they are getting very less, oh, they are getting so less. As if that if they get more, it is okay for us. So we should not enter into that kind of thing. We look that. Then second category, sewage and septic tank. There, another problem we are now seeing. So many deaths are happening. So we are unable to prevent those deaths. And how it is, whether to put the sewage and septic tank, the practice into the purview of the act or not. Because they are not doing this in such a manner, aware the reality, this cannot be done because we have also mentioned in the act, this is the hazardous cleaning. So hazardous cleaning is not prohibited. So what? So the argument is, including the recent parliament session and now and even the courts, the argument is it is not under the purview. So what? If it is not under the purview of the act, will you allow our citizen to go and die? So how do we actually save the life of the citizen? Which is that a life is not charity or anything. It is Article 21 says very clearly, right to life with the dignity. So in their perspective also, if you look, It is a very simple, no need to get into the whether it is under the law or not. Prohibited, not prohibited, whether even prohibited, whether it is mentioned in the rules or not. This is all for the court. And even for the court, my submission here is, court also no need to be so structurally sick and say that it is not mentioned in the rules. So we cannot, how? There are many things, many courts in our country. I no need to make that statements that will become again a controversial. Without any law also they opened their purviews. So when it is coming to human dignity, self-respect, life, why can't you also follow the same principle? That is one just point I want to make it. Then I am just moving ahead and saying that very clearly. There are certain efforts around to happen. I'm not saying nothing happened. But whatever efforts happened, all these years, so many years, 75 years, if you will consider the constitution of this thing, or independence, few more years extra. But so many years is required to eradicate this kind of a one smallest problem. And lakhs of the people, when they were cleaning, they have come out. For all of them, they are eligible to get their rehabilitation according to the law from the 1993 onwards. But 90% of the women who left, they have not received even a single rupee loan rehabilitation. 2020, now we are 24. 2014, Supreme Court judgment has come. 2013, new act has come. So new act is saying very clearly, we have to provide all the compensation and the rehabilitation. So there is only one thing is like a bonded labor, the people when they are coming out, so next day what they will eat, that's really depending on this work. So for that reason, they said that there is a one-time cash assistance, OTCA, 40,000 rupees, according to the rules. It is there in the act that it has come as a scheme, and it is said with one-time cash assistance of rupees 40,000. The problem here, the government and the ministers, even in the parliament, they are saying, we have rehabilitated the 40,000 whomever they have given, that they are considering as a rehabilitation. This rehabilitation is actually, they have to provide. I am the scavenger. I left. I don't want from tomorrow to do. So I lose my roti. I lose my money, and I hope that I am doing something. That also I lost. So immediately government will say that this month you will receive 7,000 rupees from your account. So government will deposit 40,000 in the account, but they can withdraw only 7,000 per month. After 5 months, 35,000 is out, then 5,000 remain. Before the period, the government has to sit with them and make any business plans and the rehabilitation packages from the 1 lakh to 25 lakhs. There is a money. That is called the SRMS scheme. So these are the to look to explain it's so good. But at the grassroots level, at the ground, actually it is not happening. And why the women are more in this violent cleaning? Is it not because of the patriarchy? Why we want to ignore that? We can't see even a single word in any scheme and the law or in the Supreme Court judgment, nowhere mentioning about the patriarchy. So my submission here is, everybody knows about the manifest scavenging matches. And you can also read it in the enough material also available. But my question is, why when there is two important things, one is a caste, another is the patriarchy, explicitly is in front of us, why do we want to ignore that? And manual scavenging is, I am now coming in another district, is a test for all of us. For Indian democracy, it is a test. If we are able to resolve this, we can resolve many more things. It is not just a scavenger's problem. Like me, my parents, we have a family traditionally engaged in this. So we have that pain, we carry all those things. But equally, there are the people who are not as scavengers. like our chairperson was many years, S.R. Shankar. He is not a scavenger's family. He has not born as a Dalit or anything. But he equally suffered and equally got a pain about this. And he said that I will not even any other work, any other, including the Supreme Court commissioners for the right to food campaign, that there was a campaign, they appointed some commissioners. He said that no, I have no time. I have only time for the manual scavengers rehabilitation movement, nothing else. So my submission here is, this is not paid for only the scavengers, problem of the scavengers. There are the well-meaning and the clean people who given their life till he died 2010, October 7th, till the date. He was fully actively involved, only one more. So this we need to understand. There is so much that people, many, like Sir also, I know many years. Why they respect, why they recognize me? That is just because the problem is as such that has to immediately address. This is not on a personal level of any support or anything. They are all committed to the actually to immediately as soon as possible. So my submission before closing also, instead of getting into the what is the access, what is the Supreme Court said, why it is, that's all there. But can't we understand that this is another human being, why we should make to clean, even after so many years, after so many schemes. So is there any other way? If we are missing something, the women who left courageously past many years, how do we compensate them? We have no problem for the money. Our budgets are too big. I don't want to mention even the numbers here. So this is not at all a game of mentioning the numbers, arguing, winning the case like I felt when I went to the court. So I'm just like a Gauss as a. So we felt that when you go to the court in the cinema style, court then ab jeet gaya, ab har gaya. So we don't know that there is nothing to win or to lose. It is actually the Supreme Court will give you a different kind of a thing. And in the Supreme Court, there is no that box where you can go and argue or nothing. I was thinking that in Supreme Court, that will go there and the box, and I will question this judge everybody. So much. Those things are not there even in our judiciary system. It is not, there is no box. There is no space for the event to scavengers to speak. So how we actually, the courts can also listen, hear their voice. There is no voice. They have come to the court, to the Supreme Court. They have no other card or something identity, but with the great difficulty we have taken to the court hall. So we have informed that they are all there. But the judges said that there is no such procedure here in the Supreme Court to hear directly. So my submission here is you can find out the larger solutions for this kind of a very rooted problem. It is a very deep rooted problem. Otherwise, it could have gone very long back. When I first saw this, I felt that it is happening in only my people. So I will go and I will hold their hands and I will beg and I will ask them to come out. It is over.
बापरे सिरियसली
Then,
भारी आहे.
can you request?
Mute always.
Yeah.
Then second is I also felt that there are the dry things are there. Those toilets if you demolish, then it is a problem is over. But later I understood that that is not either the latrine basket, broom or one person. It is all in our mind. So this, how do we address? So my request is, why do we have this kind of an understanding about any human beings? So slowly we need to address this. Thereby we can also address many more issues in the country. This is a test. So for the test also like what it is, a vaccine, vaccine. So vaccine also if it is taking the 42, 43 years, then maybe this is how long it will take. That is when a major I am getting afraid. So 43 years still we are in the stage after. We have not done sufficiently anything. Because we have no such kind of a conviction or commitment to do that, we want to do this by this. So my submission before closing, just we need to have a time-bound action plan with a kind of a very clear package like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will do by this will do by others, we will come out of the problem. And there is no need to have if somebody is saying that still the manual scavenging is there, oh, you are talking against the country interest. That is not good. We also understand that we are all good people. I am not saying I am good, all are good. The only thing is that understanding we need to bit widen and take the every angle of the any comments very positively and build the nation again. This is the right time after the 75 years of the constituency that has come into the first stage.
This was very effective, straight from heart, and in his typical style, hitting the nail on the head. I think the most powerful statement that Bezwada made, it's a litmus test for Indian democracy. So, Asang, please take about 10 to 15 minutes and then we have a conversation. Please, Asang.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Jha. Hello, everyone. And it's an honor to really have heard Vasanji's many YouTube videos, but to be part of the same panel. And young Dalit scholars like me really draw inspiration from him. So I think I will start by sort of explaining why I'm here. The two papers I wrote on the law and manual scavenging because I'm a lawyer and I study human rights law at the University of Oxford. And those two papers were really critical of the legal discourse on manual scavenging in India, critiquing the Indian Supreme Court's jurisprudence on manual scavenging, and sort of really to reflect and start with what Bezwada ji just said about trying to identify human being or the humanity as the central core of the whole issue. And it immediately sent me back to Dr. Ambedkar's work. And when he was drafting the Constitution, as we are celebrating 75 years, was he kept the human being or the human as the core of the whole constitutional scheme. We have seen a lot of problems with the Indian Supreme Court's approach towards manual scavenging. And in the 10 and 15 minutes time that I've been given, my focus will be to sort of really outline what I call as the conditional prohibition of manual scavenging in the 2013 Act. And also I will then present my argument of unconstitutionality of all forms of manual scavenging in India using the human dignity approach, reading also with the untouchability jurisprudence in the Indian Constitution. I will start with what is the problem with manual scavenging, and I would not spend more than 30 seconds because Bezwada ji has explained it so well. What is the problem really with it? The problem is not just about providing people with protective equipments or appropriate protective equipments, but the very dignity problem associated with the practice. The caste angle to is that the 99% of the people involved into this practice are Dalits, and even intersectionally, women more so as part of it. So this sort of myth that there is a dignified version of manual scavenging has to be problematized. Because any sort of access or any sort of engagement with fecal matter leads to social exclusion, stigmatization, and untouchability. And of course, I would also argue systemic violence for Dalits as well. Now, Supreme Court has done sort of a few sort of, I would say, leading judgments has come out with few leading judgments. Of course, Safai Karmachari Andolan versus Union of India, the 2014, led by SKA as a PIL litigation before the Supreme Court. And any student of law who studies this aspect knows that it is not the final judgment which is relevant, but the multiple mandamus which the Supreme Court was able to deliver in last 10 years from the time of filing of the petition to the final judgment is really the key success of this particular judgment. After 2014, of course, the recent 2023 Dr. Balram Singh judgment by Justice Bhatt and Justice Arvind Kumar is a relevant one, and I'll also touch upon that. But my argument really is that the conditional prohibition approach of the 2013 Act, and I will outline what it means. Under Section 2(1)(g), a person is excluded from the definition of maneuver scavenger the moment they are provided with protective equipment. And that is what my legal critique and analysis has been about, whether the moment you provide someone with protective equipments, do they really escape the stigma of untouchability, caste oppression, and systemic violence? The conditional prohibition basically says that if the government is able to show legally that a particular person engaged in sanitation work has been given this protective equipment, then the person would be excluded from the definition, brings back the 1976 legislation conditional approach, which was done away in 1993. So my argument is that the 2013 Act, which is considered as a very progressive one, is actually a regressive one. And now really coming to Dr. Balram Singh's judgment, and Bezwada ji was mentioning about the different hierarchy, I would say, of, within manual scavenging as well, especially about septic tanks and sewers. The hazardous cleaning has now been included as part of manual scavenging by the Supreme Court in the 2023 judgment. The court ruled by a wide interpretation of the definition of manual scavenging to include those engaged in cleaning sewers and septic tanks without prescribed protective cares. So the Supreme Court in 2023 has recognized that if someone, and reading with the Bonded Labor Article 23 as well, now is part of the law that manual scavenging also includes hazardous cleaning as well. The problem and the issue that I take with this Supreme Court's approach is that it actually completely ignores the human dignity angle and the humanness of the people involved in this when they actually rule that if provided with protective equipments, these people, of course, are part of manual scavengers, but if they are sort of provided with this protective equipments, they still would not be under the purview of the Act. So why I'm making this argument is that if we start reading the Indian Supreme Court's judgments outside of manual scavenging, focused on three aspects in the fundamental rights framework. Article 17, the untouchability prohibition. Article 21, which is the human dignity, as Bezwada ji also mentioned. And also, I would also say right to life, which is also part of Article 21 as well. So my analysis shows that, be it the Sabrimala case, which is Chandrachud's judgment, or the Union of India versus State of Maharashtra, these two judgments are fundamental for us to understand how Supreme Court's analysis in manual scavenging cases, which is of course the Delhi Jal Board case, 2011, Safai Karmachari case, Andolan case 2014, and the recent Dr. Balram Singh case, 2023, these three judgments actually exclude Supreme Court's own understanding on untouchability. I'll be very brief because I can go on forever, but the understanding of untouchability in the Indian jurisprudence is that any form of social exclusion amounts to untouchability. That's an expansive reading that we have to consider. Now, if that is the one reading of untouchability that has been across the jurisprudence of Indian Supreme Court, when we club that with two rights, One is right to human dignity, and second is right to life. Our argument is that the very act of any permissibility of manual scavenging cannot survive. The very act, section 2 explanation, is unconstitutional based on that conjoint reading of the Supreme Court's own law. And the critique really comes in there. But as whenever we speak, for example, let's pick up Dr. Balram Singh judgment, the recent 2023 one. It's very clear from that analysis that we have there that it's a good judgment in terms of making good recommendations, 14 recommendations made by the division bench of the Supreme Court to eradicate manual scavenging. But the whole discussion in that case lacks the rigor of trying to understand how do we first eradicate manual scavenging? Will it be through allowing the practice to continue using these protective equipments and having these legal loopholes existing to perpetuate the practice? And second thing is, can we, in this 75th year of Indian Constitution, still continue to invisibilize the human nature of Dalits who are engaged in this practice? If the answer to the second part is no, that if we are trying to understand the whole problem in terms of untouchability and human dignity, then, and using the Supreme Court's own jurisprudence on the issue of untouchability, it is very clear that the section 2 explanation cannot survive the constitutionality test. So the argument, and I'll conclude really briefly here, is that any form of human engagement with fecal matter, even if with safety equipment, is unconstitutional. And this brings me to what Bezwada ji's first point, a very important point, that sanitation is essential and a necessity, is about then for us to understand and reconcile how do we take that essential aspect of sanitation and people dying every single day and facing the worst form of humiliation as they have suffered for centuries and millennia, reconcile that. And I think the approach has to begin by first prohibiting all forms of manual scavenging and not allowing for any conditional prohibitions. I would end there. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Asang. It was very, very apt, and you were very sharp and crisp. So now we open to everyone for a conversation together on this extremely important issue. So, sir.
Thank you so much. I think you have a invite. Thank you. Nivedita said that she wanted to conclude this year's series under her convenership with Bezwada Wilson and on this topic. I mean, it really brought me back to when we were discussing how to start a new series of seminars in CSD way back, some 18, 19 years ago. So I'm so glad you conducted this. I think 3 failures you have pointed out and Asang has reinforced. The failure of the state, failure of the society, and failure of law particularly. And I think he has eminently expanded your argument by saying that our Supreme Court has itself not stuck to its own understanding of manual scavenging as an illegal form of social exclusion which is prohibited under the Constitution.
And I mean, I don't like the term social exclusion because this is far deeper and stronger than the term conveys. So the legal failure is one, and it has been explained. And the state failure, the policy failure, and the implementation failure is the next one, which we are aware of, but you have, very sharply underlined them. But I think the social failure is the deep factor which comes out very starkly. I think, when Article 17 abolished untouchability, it was hoped that it will be translated into a transformation of social practices and culture, both. And then state will facilitate that and enforce. But I think it at the society level, us and untouchability have been allowed to continue. And that is the reason why this inhuman practice continues. And I think the two arguments that you presented to highlight the social failure, which is the deepest failure, is that it is a human issue, and the question of human dignity has to be internalized, and then that commitment to human dignity, protection and practice, living human dignity, and not tolerating any indignity. That we have not been able to inculcate that culture. I mean, there have been reform movements, there have been political movements, there have been constitutional movements, but I think the culture of acquiescence with untouchability and practice of indignity continues. But the second one, that is a test for democracy, your main argument, which really ties up the failure of state, society, and law, I think is most important. Because here, parties, social movements, institutions, I think they all have to share this responsibility. And I remember discussing this with Shankar, who's here. When KB is in the hospital, he misses this. He sends his regards. I met him day before yesterday. So they were together in drafting the very first in the 90s regulations, and then following it up right up to Shankaran's death, as you said. And the person who also reminded us of this is Devu Bandhopadhyay. He was also part of the same circle who was working on this. So our 2 volumes that CSD published in honor of Shankaran have a lot of papers. I think it has 1 paper by you. Has it? KB Saxena and Hargopal as editors. You have a paper there. Yes. So also great speaker. Now, the state failure is one, legal failure is another. Again, the social failure as a democracy. In other words, the political parties and social movements have not taken it up as a essential issue. And you talk about unemployment, inflation, and things like that. But that this is a test. How serious you are about poverty or unemployment, this is the test. And I think that makes it very important. And therefore, but I would just to take both your presentations further, I would expect that we have more discussion on the social failure, both in terms of analysis and mobilization, and then pointing out what are the arenas where state and law have to do more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, after Mr.
Thank you first for coming to CSD and talking to us on such an important issue. I often wonder, this is not my area of work, but, this is an area of interest, should be to every human being. You're talking about human dignity. Almost on a daily basis, you open newspaper and see, sewage cleaning and some 4-5 people have died and all. We never hear what actually happened after that, Has anybody been punished for this, criminal negligence? In many cases, these are not directly employed by municipalities, but indirectly. They are private contractors, they're, but we know for many laws, because even in CSD, when you try to do something, our people say, no, this is not responsible, even if it is done by contractor. So as it, you're the primary employer, so even if contractor is doing, you are responsible for that. So has anybody in government operating, municipalities and all, or any other institution been punished for such criminal negligence? That would be one area of, my curiosity. I was hearing, what you were saying, but this is not again my area of expertise, but little bit of reading that I have. I had a very different kind of understanding, starting from Ram Mohan to Vidyasagar to Ambedkar. I think they all believe that is Samaj ke liye sudhrega nahi. Society will remain this way. So you have to take the help of constitution and law to reform the society. Now we come to the understanding, but even that approach didn't work. So law, constitution, even that is failing. So then what is the third alternative? Society may should have, law is ineffective. So what would be the third alternative? Now this comes to, I think, maybe to the domain of political. When political parties, they, get their agenda, do they take these kind of issues, human dignity, is it an important issue there? Or, of late, this has become a very important part of political discourse that our political parties themselves, could get themselves rid of, maybe not untouchability, but caste prejudices, caste bias, are there in political parties inside, even communist parties are being, kind of held responsible for not being open enough, not being, good enough in removing caste bias within their rank and file. So probably that will again get back to society. There cannot be one approach. So it's polity, it's law and constitution and society. All of them have to come together, and how you probably try to do that, I understand, with not so far desired result, but I'm sure some result you might have got. So this is area now, maybe you can reflect a bit more. Thank you.
Thank you. Those online, there is.
Yeah.
Sangeeta.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Bezwada and Asang, for that wonderful presentation and discussion. I wanted to ask, in terms of wanting to end manual scavenging, it's a clarificatory question actually. What role can technology play? And in the state of Kerala, the use of robotics for manual scavenging, do you think initiatives like that have like have a meaningful intervention on ground, and what's the way forward, apart from, of course, the recognition of the oppression that goes with it from the legal as well as the governments. uh, what's the way forward to end manual scavenging? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else online? No? Okay.
Thank you, Wilsonji, for a very wonderful presentation.
Come to the microphone.
I think
So that our colleagues can hear you online and in particular. Asang.
Mic से आ जाएगा इधर से। नहीं सब बैठ के हो जाएगा।
समय मत बता दीजिए जो भी।
See, this, I mean, the question is more pertaining to data. We see the data from this Central Public Sector Undertaking and the Government of India data on employment. We see that there is a gradual decline in SCs who are manual scavengers or who are Safai Karmcharis in basically a government setup. There is a decline in their number, and there is an increase in the number of Safai Karmcharis who are basically from upper caste and Muslims. And we also see that in the last over 10-12 years, there is an increasing use of technology. I mean, at least in words, if there is not actually much on ground. So do you see there is a connection between the increasing use of technology so that upper caste do not have to make their hands dirty? That is one question. Before 2013-14, we do not see any such attempt. I mean, it's very recent. Secondly, manual scavenging, even within Dalits, is a task which is done by one particular subcaste of community. I mean, it's not that all Dalits are doing this kind of work. And that has led to a very high degree of underdevelopment of this particular community. And that takes me to the question of this subcategorization of reservation. Do you think that a community which, because of this particular task, has remained so backward, should be given the subcategory, I mean, reservation under a subcategory?
All right, maybe sort of one or two interventions and then we go back to what are speakers. Yes, please go on.
Really, I'm sorry to take up time to know about the failure of the state's guideline law in addressing this issue. But having said that, like, are there any examples of states in India with progressive measures in eliminating this practice which is against human dignity?
All right, so, okay, go ahead. The mic is next to you.
Thank you both the speakers for this insightful discussion and submissions on this crucial issue. I just want to know, like, the impact, the intergenerational impact on the children of this generation regarding this social and economic mobility. So based on your experience.
Right. Okay, so shall we let Asang come first and then you? Asang, you may
Yeah, sure.
anything that you want to pick up?
Yeah, well, I think I'll focus on the technology, but I've already posted on the group chat about some technological interventions being made, and that is the way forward. I'm not really sure about any academic studies done about the effectiveness of them or how effective they have been in terms of eradicating manual scavenging, but that is something that we have to look into. I'll take the two other questions, especially on the subcategorization thing, because I've worked on that and also the intergenerational impact, which was asked. So the issue with subcategorization and, of course, the recent judgment of the Indian Supreme Court, which approved it, is that we need to really have in-depth data before going into that. Of course, the person who asked this question is absolutely correct that there are gradations and even more divisions within the Dalit community where a particular subcaste is the majoritarily dominated in doing manual scavenging work. And there has been data, substantial data, which has actually proved that other Dalits would treat them as far more worse off than, for example, if they are from higher sort of subcategory within the community. But the tricky bit about subcategorization is the politics of it. And I know that we're not here to discuss subcategorization in detail, but it's about how the political parties would then appropriate that and lead to further divisions within the Dalit community. So I will leave it at that, really. And the intergenerational impact question is an important one. It indeed has intergenerational impact. Reservation itself will not fix it. And I work on reservations. My PhD at Oxford is based on that. I think making reservation as be all and end all of social emancipation is a mistake that we shouldn't make. It has done tremendously great benefits to a lot of Dalits, has helped come come sort of let them come into the mainstream and has empowered them. But if we're just going to limit our focus on reservations, that's not going to help anyone. Yeah.
Thanks, Hassan.
See, there is a very simple understanding about this. Who has to take the move? The society, the government, or the judiciary? That is always very debated. There is no, we can't say that this is important. But any problem in the society, in the democracy, that has to resolve by the political will. So even the social problems, even the sati, it is a social problem. But there should be a law which is prohibiting that. May not be that during that time. No case may not be filed, but later stages, by saying that there is a law, it is an because ultimately in the nation state, we are all bound to follow the government's rules and regulations and so that we need to understand. So anything which we say that the society is Indian society is worse, of course there are many things to be worse. But by saying that we cannot escape others. The Indian society has to transform and it is a transforming and making a many changes. Like when we, if I talk about the untouchability, this is the most important, we need to talk about only this. Then others will say that what about this issue? What about this? All issues we have to address. That is then a common collective responsibility of the any developing of the civilized society. So that we cannot say that we will stop, we have grown, so we will, that always. Like the simplest thing is patriarchy, we have not dealt. Even our whole system, including our family also, such a patriarchal, but because nobody is talking, it is going on. And everybody want to talk. They have to pay something for that. Otherwise, nothing will move. The structure will collapse. So are we here to protect the structures? Or do we have a courage to actually expand this, the spectrum, whatever the spectrum we have in a democratic space, even out bada, out increase that by paying our own ready. That is a question. But my final submission is this has to the political, all political work. So why only manual scavenging is not addressing other issues? It's a political. It's a absolutely political. It is not just so. But to take that political decision, it is not in the priority and the political. There are the social order, social problems. The society pressure is not there. The citizens and everybody, we do go for the many, raising the voice for many things. How many times the citizens of this country came out on their own and say that this is, I can't bear this here, how you can just live when somebody is cleaning the shit in my country, in the society, to live as a citizen, I feel ashamed. How many we are saying? If you are not saying that, that is also required. So we can't say that this is important, this is that. Courts, of course, they go with the power, and it is also part of the structure. So they protect the structure. Many judges and many people also there to actually to protect the a kind of a confidence of the people on the courts. We need to give some kind of a progressive things. Otherwise, that is what is the open. So open discussions also deliberately we need to put into the front. Even if it is a court, why should not be discussed? So one judge saying that, do you think that we have so much time to discuss about the toilet in scavenging toilet? I have no time. That is one of the chief justices of this country. So the scavengers are the least marginalized, who has no any representation, coming to the Supreme Court itself. Is there such a greatest thing happened? That opportunity Supreme Court has missed. The Supreme Court Chief Justice has missed. So they could have done something, thereby they could have showed the way that in democracy, every voice can be heard very equally. These are the things we can say. And the interest both always it is definitely. And somebody said that there is somebody, other caste people are also coming. See, the problem here is to speak openly. In the permanent job, sanitation comes, you enroll your name, but you can ask other second person to do. The second person happened to be again the scavenger community, traditionally we are doing. This is a usual that everybody knows. So Badali Kamas, we say that is it happens. So you are a dominant, so you are able to get the job. So now the fight is again. Our people they call from the indoor morning. They say that you please come here. Why you are sitting in Delhi? Do you know that all these people अलग अलग दूसरा दूसरा जात लोग आके हमारा काम छीन के चल रहा है. They are all taking away our jobs. You come stand. So what for I started in the life. So now again I have to go. Give me my job to me. So these are the things which we need to. So I told them very clearly, I'm sorry, I cannot come. If I can't go, I cannot contest many elections. Because I am not standing by the side of the people when they demand. The people may demand many things. We are not a politicians to go with the people always. Whatever they say, you are like a business people say what it is. You are a final. They will say that we say something wrong also. They say, sir, your word is the final. Because I want to get the business from you. Your word is the final. You are a master, some good word, I forget that. Like
Customer is always right.
customer is always right. They say that, sir, what you are saying is no value, but customer is always right. So likewise, we cannot go. We have to tell our own people also. We are struggling to come out of this. If somebody is coming here or there, let them come, but ask them to also do. So you go again for the lesser wage, they will get the 80,000, 60,000, 30,000, and they will pay the 8,000 to you, and you go and work. That exploitation you have to fight against. So this is a kind of a combination of we are all together. And all the problems are also there within a scavenging community. So again, one section of the people only, yes, of course, all the lists are not, even including the scheduled caste category, there are the touchables, there are the untouchables, both are there. And within the untouchables, again, there are the subcategories. That is the beauty of this system, which can continue forever. Now, there are somebody is enjoying some kind of a thing. You are enjoying with the 100 rupees, I am enjoying with the 50 rupees. Both will want the system that continues. So, subcaste, there are the name, Valmikis, Sudha hum kehte hain, then Dam, there are the other Dom, Doma, and other Lalbek, like the religions may change. They may convert to the other religion, but they continue as an scavenger. So religions are not here. We can say that they are the Christians, they are the Hindus, they are the Muslims, they are no. All the religions, but untouchables. Lal Beg and Hela and all these communities, they are Muslims, but they are the Dalits. So these are the social facts and the realities we need to address. And we have finally, my submission is, we have to come and say that the reason why this should not continue. My simplest this thing is, it is irrational. Caste is completely irrational. Patriarchy is a completely irrational, illogical both. If you still believe that, That is a danger for the any kind of a society to call as a civilized. It's nothing. You feel that you are a great, and you are asking me to feel that I am a low. And there is nothing to feel like that. There is no basis, nothing. But we still believe why. This is the living process.
Thank you. So, another round, 5 minutes or so, if anyone, yes, please. Reflection.
Some information that which are the regions in a state where still the practice the large number of weight number in this is practice in weight number. My impression is that even from the beginning, it was more prevalent in dry regions. And sometimes I try to locate this reason and existence of caste. And found some linkages that those states where dry doctrine was in much greater practice and also much greater number of untouchable caste. Some didn't go much beyond in terms of relating all the states, but tried to relate with some state. So still I'm wondering that which are the states where still this is in practice. Second thing that I will look at this correlate the data of such for masons and this practice of or presence of manual scavenger. Many of the villages are being declared completely Swachh Bharat. Are there still some practices or this Swachh Bharat mission exists independent of this practice? And third thing is that about this political party taking this problem of manual scavenger. Dr. Loria has raised this issue, and in fact, on the floor of Parliament, not outside on the house of the Lok Sabha, and it was around 63, 64. And he proposed, he gave a suggestion, and he made this a statement on the floor of Parliament that salary of the wages of the manual scavenger should be raised to the highest level. Just say that just to respect the high office of the country lower than president, but it should be raised. And this he gave a solution to even eradicate caste system, because he argued that one of the reasons this practice is in existence that it is also low paid job. And we have seen recently that you mentioned also, as Akhil mentioned, that many upper caste people are coming because in the formal sector wages are good. So there is no concept of untouchable or prohibited occupation in the formal sector when wages are good. Many of the multinational corporations and banks, they pay very handsome salary, and there it is lucrative job. So there is perhaps no caste restriction, and people from some connection from upper caste also try to get this job. The suggestion was given by very long way in 63, 64. Unfortunately, because of his politics itself didn't move after his death, so nobody took over it further.
Asang, you want to come in?
Actually, I can come in after Bezwada ji as well on the last point, really. But I'll come in later. Yeah.
Okay.
See, one thing is very clear, we need to understand. There is always there is an argument that, see, all these years the Dalits has done. But now ask the dominant caste people to do. That is also one argument. But I'm sorry to accept that kind of a very irrational arguments. We are growing. We are becoming a human beings. So once you think that this is a very difficult for me to clean, so how I can also ask any other human being? See, then if you are thinking that then let the Brahmin do, you are practicing the caste. If I think that Brahmin can do, then I am a fully 100% casteist person. So we need to come out of this. Human beings should not clean at any cost. This is not because my mother has done or my father has done, my brother has done. So I am no. Maybe I placed in that place and it happened to be I got into this. Even if I am not, if somebody is doing also, as a human being, I have to give a full support to this. So we need to cross that line, and very often people say that dominant caste, upper caste, lower. No, it is not. Dry latrine cleaning, it has to be completely stopped and eradicated and vanished from the society. And sort of very small children, they should not see that kind of a sin through their eyes. That makes them one human being carrying the human excreta. Once if they see, that hierarchy automatically will enter into there. So that the child should not see that kind of a sin. That is our struggle. Somebody is cleaning today, 30, 40, 60 years old women. How long she will going to clean? Another 5 years, 10 years, it will go. But before that, there are the many people are again seeing that. That is the reason this kind of social evils. We must try to close. Today, Katham, it is the best, not tomorrow. One. Second is various. Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Jammu Kashmir. In these states, even the dry latrine cleaning is there even today. You mentioned about that I don't want to discuss about the Swachh Bharat mission and all because the Prime Minister has done so. You talk about that, the people will immediately say you are against the Prime. It is not that way. Prime Minister is all for all of us. He is not for the one particular party or anything. He launched the scheme to provide the toilet facilities for the Indian citizens. Fine enough. We discussed with them very clearly. In this, you have to focus on the dry latrine eradication. That they have not taken it very positively. They felt that first we will do this. So this argument always is there. Pahle azadi, baad mein untouchability, eradication. That is there. That is an argument. So priorities they can do whatever, but unfortunately, after declaring India as an open defecation free green state or some, still there are the dry latrines. That is the one thing we need to address. We have to answer for that. We spent 2 lakhs crores to construct the toilets. But the women who clean for past many thousand years, for their rehabilitation, how many crores we have? That is the thing. So we will continue our conversation and we are all available here only. But we try to come to the conclusions.
Well, with your statement, Bindasri Pathak, Lake Pindri Pathak, he started Sulabh Shauchalaya and he break this barrier of the caste. So everywhere we find the different caste community in this Sulabh Shauchalaya.
Of course.
Yeah. Can I come in, Professor Jha, if that's okay?
Son, can I just
Yeah.
one or two
Yeah.
sentences? See, this basic thing about upper caste people becoming formally employed and so on. Somebody had sent me a PhD thesis a couple of years ago based on what was happening. And it was exactly what you were saying. It's large scale subcontracting. They get registered, they get the job and so on and so forth, but they don't do anything, right? So to that extent, what Bezwada ji was saying, that 99% plus people belong to one particular caste who are actually doing what is being done in terms of dry latrine, etc., etc. Second, I think it's extremely important to connect it with the larger macro polity, macroeconomic regime, and so on and so forth, right? What is happening? So employment challenges, what happens, given the hierarchy of castes, yeah, and their sort of mobilization with respect to different political parties and so on. In fact, in UP, the scheme was given a lot of push by Mayawati, right? So there was a particular purpose, yeah, in terms of mobilization and getting certain kinds of, yeah. So all that will then need to be brought into the conversation. Right? So on the one hand, you have the employment challenges, etc., which sort of needs to be connected with the larger macroeconomic policy regime and what kind of openings you see, yeah, in the existing context, etc. Asang, one specific issue that I would want you to sort of take a minute or so and reflect on is this whole question of, with the hijacking of whatever liberal democracy we had. Yeah. And I have no hesitation in saying that it's been hijacked. Right? How do you look at the prospects with respect to some of these worst practices? Because that is also predicated on a very sort of revanchist, renegade kind of construct of Hindutva. Yeah. How does all that connect with what is happening on the ground and so on and so forth? Right? You talked of various judges who did, obviously, all these are well-known 1970s, 80s, etc., up to early 90s. We had a number of good judgments, basically expanding the right to life, yeah, and many things were brought into the discourse of that. But as Bezwada was saying, that nobody paid any attention to these most terrible kinds of practices which hit us very hard in terms of human dignity. Article 39B says that all citizens must have adequate means to have a life of dignity and so on. And something which has been sort of flagged so many times. Why is it that all that is not getting connected with the discourses, debates, etc., with respect to the practices that we are talking about today? Right? Okay, let me stop there, and you can take a minute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I would really address the elephant in the room, and I'm known for speaking my mind out. So I would ask my forgiveness to anyone in the room if I happen to offend anyone. That's not my intention. For the longest time, in the race context in the US as well, or even in the caste context as well, what happens is that there's an Olympics of wanting to be identified as a marginalized community. Be it in the US or be in this country in India. What both Professor Jha and Bezwada ji have pointed out is that just because there is some form of mobility from upper caste to manual scavenging doesn't change the very nature of manual scavenging, because predominantly it is still being undertaken by Dalits in India. It doesn't change the caste angle of it at all. Rather, I would say it's upper caste privilege and supremacy where people would actually and have actually in the past brought this argument saying that, oh, because now upper caste are also doing this, the caste becomes immediately invisible from the discourse of manual scavenging. And I think we need to challenge that approach and that illogical thinking towards that issue. Professor Jha, a fantastic question on hijacking of the liberal democracy, and really reminds me of course, Ambedkar, but also my own reading of the law and social change literature about there's always been a gap between law, if there's been that, and of course the social change which sort of takes place. The role of ideology in this, and I would sort of also want maybe Bezwada ji to also comment, is the experience of Dalits, irrespective of ideology, has been of oppression. I would say I would really start with that. As pointed out very clearly, that the human identity and the human sort of experience was always negated, irrespective of the ideology per se. Of course, with Hindutva coming in, sorry, just 1 minute, my cleaning lady. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, with the Hindutva issue really and the decay of the liberal institutions and independent institutions in the country, that's a major issue on its own. But the experience of Dalits, irrespective of whatever ideology was part, has been that we have been invisibilized in those institutions and positions of power. Of course, it's not to say progress has not been made, but what ends up then happening is that, especially the Hindutva identity and agenda that's going around, that everyone, even the Dalits, are of course now part of the larger Hindutva project as their foot soldiers. It would sort of then become how are the mechanisms sort of being used to still invisibilize Dalits, but in a very different form. For example, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, really sort of having this poster of politicians really cleaning a garbage or something that was dumped just for photo op, right? And how does that exacerbate the existing voices and the existing experiences of Dalits in India?
Thank you, Asang. Last word. No. Last, you have to have the last.
So I'm so thankful that we are having an open discussion on this. And I'm always think that there are the many limitations. Law has their own limitations, and everybody, even the politicians and the bureaucrats and the judges and everybody, I do often meet, not in the court, outside. Secretaries always, including their offices, and the minister, everybody will expect to us, I have a limitations. I can't do more than this. But I always see that there is no such limitation is preventing them not to do this kind of a liberation work. That always they have to come out of that limitation, and it is just as an excuse to say that I have a limitation. This bureaucrat, always the politicians, top politicians, very top, the cabinet rank ministers, they'll say, I want to do this, but these bureaucrats, they don't allow. And the secretaries, almost like a 7 secretaries, they were saying, we want to complete this within a just, but these politicians. Of course, judges not so openly, but almost like this. I have to give an interpretation, this, but I cannot do. I asked one judge directly, sir, you are talking about the manual scavenging in Indian railways. So I will just, you come along with me one day morning, in the Delhi railway station, I will show you. Why you are asking me to put the so many applications, I will put, they will say it is wrong. Then again you are hearing after hearing. They said that to talk is good, but in the court it will not stand. My submission is this kind of relevant questions must stand in front of the politicians, bureaucrats, and the judiciary. Then only actually the democracy will perish.
Yes. So thank you so much to speakers. And it's been, I think, a good conversation. Thank you, all of you. And I think we must keep insisting on constitutionality test, as Asang put it, because whatever little I understand of Indian Constitution, there is just no place for any of these horrendous practices. Right? So on that, we are so thankful to both of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. It was so lovely to join all of you. And yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
So our host, Nivedita, are you offering them some tea, coffee? Or
We can have another round.